Cobbersations, Concordia's first student-run podcast. I'm your host, Linden Stave. With me on the soundboard is Justin Monroe.
Hello.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Bell Tower, Concordia's premier destination for lifelong commitments and lifelong curses. In today's episode, we have a very special guest. She's Concordia's student body president. She's a senior majoring in communications with a minor in English. She's from Moorhead originally. Let's welcome Sophia Newcomb.
Hi.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course.
So, can we jump right in?
Let's go for it.
Let's talk about SGA.
Okay.
So, can you talk about your history within SGA, or let's talk about the history within SGA, and then why you chose to run for student body president.
Yeah, for sure. Well, when I was a sophomore, I went to a few different Senate meetings just as a guest, just to kind of check it out, which encouraged me to apply for junior class representative. And so I served as one of our junior class reps this past year. And I love Concordia so much, and there's such a special place for it in my heart. And I just saw a lot of opportunities for different things that we could be doing and implementing, and I was really passionate to get that done, so I thought it would be a great idea to run for student body president.
Sure. So can we talk about things that your team has in the works? First, could you give me a rundown of the team so far?
I have Quinn Wrigley as my vice president. Mm-hmm. Tyrell Setness is my chief of staff. Rio Permenter is my director of communications. And Taylor Devine is our director of operations. Sweet.
So is there anything you have in the works or that you ran on that you're really looking forward to in the coming year?
Yeah. And honestly, since we put our entire exec team together, we've even had changes of what we're going to want to end up doing, especially with the entire pandemic. But we're really just going to be focusing on student well-being and mental health. Those are our main goals, just trying to incorporate better resources and to eliminate stigmas of conversations around mental health, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's a great initiative. So you mentioned the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering how that affected just kind of because I served on SGA my sophomore year.
Right, that's right.
Chief of operations. And I know that the summer is like a time when there's like so much coordination.
Right.
So how does it look like now?
I'm really glad you asked that. It's because, of course, we planned for our summer to be a time to be collaborating with one another and building as an exec team, as well as getting together with CEC and CMC and DEIC to get stuff ready for the school year. And obviously that's not something that we're able to do now. So we've been having to communicate virtually over Slack, over email, over text, a lot of Zoom calls. And typically there's the leadership, what is it called?
Yeah.
The leadership.
I know you're talking about.
The month of leadership building is normally in May.
Yep.
And obviously we weren't able to do that. So, it's been a challenge. No doubt about that, trying to communicate as a team, especially because now everyone has different schedules. So trying to get that squared away over technology has been a battle, but we figured it out.
That's good. So do you know how it's going to look going into the school year? Is Senate going to change?
We're actually just starting to talk about that now. We're going to have an exec meeting the beginning of this upcoming week in regards to that, because we're not entirely sure what we have control over, because I'm sure a couple more changes will be made by the time we start school in the fall.
Sure.
But some ideas are moving to a larger space. If we could hold Senate meetings in the Centrum. I don't even know if Memorial Auditorium would be an option. But the Fugelstead lecture hall, I think, is still pretty large. So maybe we could all still fit in there, just being distanced apart, but we'll have to see.
Sure. So talking about SGA as a whole, how do you view your organization now? In regards to, it's a very vague question, sorry.
That's okay.
In regards to, you view yourself as like a middle point between the students and administration or
Exactly.
faculty. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely view student government as a tool for students to utilize in reaching faculty and administration more effectively, and also having some guidance in knowing how to implement changes that students want to see. We are that middleman to help with changes and find opportunities. Yeah, you've kind of said it. It is kind of the middle way between. But
nice. So let's shift gears and talk about your experience just in college. Because you contain multitudes. So you transferred here, or you started here.
Right. Got it.
You transferred.
Yep.
And then you came back.
Yeah.
Would you mind talking about that?
Absolutely. This is actually a question that when I first transferred back, it was definitely something I feared having to talk about. Now it's one of my most favorite things to be asked because it's great. It's great to talk about. So I'm from Moorhead, as we went over at the beginning. And I grew up on Concordia's campus. I took my first steps here. I went to Cobber Kids in this very building. Actually not in this building, but this is where Cobber Kids is now. And both my mom and my dad graduated from Concordia. My mom worked at Concordia until I was in middle school. And so I was here a lot. And just being that both my parents graduated here, that in itself brought great connection. And I was determined to go to Concordia up until probably 7th grade. And then I had a moment where I just thought, there is no way I'm going to Concordia. I have to leave. I can't stay here. Sure. All of that. And I know a lot of students who are from the area feel similar to that. Some may. Definitely not all. But my senior year, as I was deciding between the University of St. Thomas and the U of M, Concordia came into my options, and I got my acceptance letter. And before I had really gotten any others, I started to feel, oh my goodness, I think I might end up at Concordia. And then that's ultimately where I decided to go, because it really does have such a special place in my heart. And I thought, yep, let's do this. And then I had doubt throughout my first year, just because I just felt I felt that I needed to go far away, because I had this idea in my head that if I spend 4 years of college here, I'm stuck here forever, which isn't true at all. It's just kind of a leeway to go wherever you want. But of course, no one could convince me of that. So I transferred to the U of M, decided that middle of the second semester of my freshman year. And so I made the change. I got to the U of M, and I think it was the 3rd week of school. I was walking back with a roommate and a friend to our apartment, and I just said something out loud, and I was like, yeah, I've thought of transferring back. And I hadn't said it out loud. My roommate looked at me, and she said, really? And I said, yeah. And the more I was at the U, the more I missed Concordia. I remember one day I was sitting in a class, and I was emailing a professor from Concordia, just checking in to see how I was doing. And that happened more than a few times throughout just one semester. And I just came to the thought of why am I at an institution? That's great, but I'm still in contact and missing these great people from Concordia. And I just thought, you know what, I should just be there instead of that. So then I made the decision again to transfer back. The U of M was great. The sport life is super fun. There's lots of things to do. Being in the cities is great, but there's just something that big institutions don't have, which is that connection with your peers and connections with faculty and administration. And when I got back second semester, sophomore year, I knew I made the right decision. Sure. Just because of that. Just even PB&J day at financial aid office, things like that. Like you don't get that. And I was like, that's of course the first thing that I think of. And even like DS, it's not the same type of experience.
Sure.
So yeah, missed it too much.
Yep. Yeah, I certainly felt that the first year, just that anxiety, because I had this like pressure on myself that I was like, as soon as I get to college, I won't feel like I'll feel settled in.
Right.
After like a month or so. It's going to feel weird, but then I'll get settled in. And then it was just like, what am I doing? There was even more anxiety. So yeah, I feel like first and second year is just figuring things out.
Right.
Yeah. Justin, do you have anything you want to ask?
I guess talking about like your experience going to the U of M, like what would you say to students that are considering transferring, or students who come to Concordia their freshman year but they're not quite sure about it right away?
Absolutely. I actually was going to comment on that and then I forgot. So I'm glad you brought that up. For thinking about transferring, I think I was scared to be thinking about transferring, and I think being scared sometimes leads to making the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. So just to kind of accept, you know what, I'm not sure how I'm feeling here. Let me look at my options, but still keep trying to branch out, meet people, join clubs. And I feel that just especially in our society, there's this huge pressure that you have to know exactly where you're going, and that every school, you just have to have this feeling right away. And some people do. You step on Concordia's campus and think this is it. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be that way. And I think that's why some students think that. But especially if you're a student at Concordia and you're thinking of transferring, reach out to students, as well as we have great support in our Student Success Center, and we also have transfer kind of counselors to help guide you in making that decision if it's the right one or if it is the right decision to stay here. But utilize those resources because they really help process your decision and just to make sure that you're making the right one. As for incoming transfer students, I'd say don't even really picture yourself as a transfer student. It's just you're starting somewhere else, because it's not as if it makes you any different than any other student. But being a transfer student, I think it's really important to get involved, as it is for any other student. But just to try and acclimate early on to make the rest of your experience here great. And again, we still have those resources for incoming transfer students as well. And I don't think enough students take advantage of them, but I definitely recommend to, because I think it really helps adjusting to a new institution, especially if you're coming in as a sophomore or junior, when a lot of people may know each other already. Those resources are really helpful.
Yeah. I've noticed professors are also just like, most, in my experience, just want what's best for you, even if you don't even know them that well. You can just process, go to their office hours and just process what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we do a little game, a little segment we like to call Cobber Rapid Fire Questions?
Yeah, let's go.
They're very intense.
Okay.
No, they're not.
I was like, I don't believe you, but okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask you questions.
Okay.
First thing that pops into your mind.
Oh, God. Okay.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Ready, Justin?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. What orientation club were you in freshman year?
19. Club 19.
All right. Do you remember your club cheer?
Extra, read all about it. Club 19 I don't know. No,
okay.
I don't.
Okay. Do you have a go-to maize meal?
Yeah, well, I always grab fruit. Maybe Propel. No, I don't. I was like, if I have to think that hard, no, I don't have a go-to meal.
Favorite study spot on campus?
Science Center, for sure. Hands down.
Favorite class? Do you have a favorite class?
Nonverbal communication with Cindy Larson-Caston, or abnormal psychology with Dr. Creechy.
Okay. Favorite season on campus?
Fall. For sure.
And our last one. Do you consider yourself more of a kernel or more of a niblet?
Kernel.
Okay.
Yeah. Do I need to elaborate on that?
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. Niblet reminds me of a baby. really small, and I also don't like how everyone can carry Niblet around. Well, I mean, I love that for them, and I love that for Niblet, but I don't imagine myself being someone who wants to be carried around. I'd rather, do that myself.
Sure.
I feel like Colonel's more like, yeah, let's get this done, and Niblet's more, again, baby. It reminds me of a baby. Yeah, passive, and that's just not me.
Yeah. Okay. Justin, do you have anything you'd like to ask or add?
No, I'm good.
Sophie, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us. If students want to join SGA or reach out, is there a way to contact you?
Yeah. My president email is sgaprez@cord.edu, and my campus email is snewcomb@cord.edu. You can shoot an email if you see me on campus. Any of that?
Just yell.
Yeah, just yell. Just yell. That's a great way
Just
to
yell
get my
any
attention.
word.
Yep, any word.
All right, Sophie, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
All right, this has been Cobbersations.